there is a choice at the end of the Supergirl movie that confounds me. And it's something that specifically is interesting in the context of the source material for this movie, which is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King, Bilky Everly, and Matthias Lopez. Been a big fan of this book for a while. I've recommended it for years, and I've said it would make a great movie. And I think that is true in theory still. But this movie makes so many changes to the book that I think you have to look at what those are. Now, to be fair, I'm not one of those people who sees an adaptation of something and says you can't change anything from it, right? This isn't exactly like it is in the book, so it's bad. But when I do think you can do that is if the movie does not connect with people, if it is not working. And clearly this Supergirl movie, for all kinds of reasons, is not connecting with people. Sure, some people love it, and that's great. Other people, I would say the majority of people that I've heard from are like, it's okay. And some people just flat out don't like it. But so that got me wondering, why is this book that is, and I know not everybody loves this book, but it is a modern classic as far as comics are concerned, it is incredibly popular. It's beautiful. How is it that this book, which a lot of people really liked, was translated into a movie, and a lot of people really didn't like that? And you gotta ask, well, what were the decisions? What did they change? So I want to go through some of them. But really, we're going to talk about a lot of this in the context of what? Because some of the changes are clearly, for budget reasons, right? Why doesn't it look as cool? Why isn't it as colorful? I mean, you could say it's a stylistic thing. The director said they wanted it to seem kind of Mad Maxy. They use that as part of the inspiration. And listen, while I think that is a bad decision, I don't think that immediately sinks the movie, because movies that look like Mad Max can work. The Mad Max movies, for instance. I do think it's a little silly to take one of the most well-regarded comics, specifically when it comes to visuals, and put that on screen and not replicate the visuals. But whatever, that's a choice, some of which I would have to imagine has to do with budget. Right, for instance, in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the book, Supergirl is sent to a planet with a green sun that was created to be a prison for Superman, because the green sun has kryptonite in it, so it poisons Kryptonians. But that's not all. It both poisons Kryptonians, but also weakens them so that the dinosaurs that live on this planet can eat the Superman, or Supergirl in this case. And in the Supergirl movie, they go to the green planet. The circumstances are a little different, but still, they end up there. Supergirl is weakened by it. It has a similar effect. It's unclear if this is specifically a Kryptonian-proof planet, especially because apparently in this movie, people in space don't know who Superman is. He doesn't have a reputation. Supergirl doesn't have a reputation, which I think is a strange choice. I understand he only started being a superhero 3 years ago, but you do have a Green Lantern on Earth and aliens, and you kind of figure word would get out, but sure, it hasn't yet. So it sort of feels like, to me, the fact that Kara is not powerful on this planet is more of a coincidence, but either way, she goes to this planet and she is weakened. But there are no dinosaurs. There's no danger for Ruthie to fight off to protect Supergirl. She tries to keep her alive, goes to get some water, gets kidnapped. But that immediately reads to me as where are the dinosaurs? Well, they're expensive and the budget couldn't afford them. So they figured that was something they could lose. There's other bits in the book that I think aren't necessarily as expensive, but I can see why they would cut them, just because, in theory, they are things you can lose from the narrative, right? You don't need to go to the genocide planet. I would imagine it is more expensive to design a big, cool, funky pirate ship than it is to design whatever Krem's ship in the end of the movie ends up being, so that maybe that's why they didn't do it. At a certain point, you're like, well, what is going to look cool in this movie? What are we saving the budget for? But whatever, because like I said, you can try to figure out why those changes happen. You come up with a lot of different reasons. But there is another adaptational change. This one, purely from the narrative standpoint. This has nothing to do with the visuals. This would not have been more expensive to film. It is just a choice. Now, it's not clear whose choice. Maybe it was the screenwriter, Anna Nagara. Maybe it was the director, Craig Gillespie. Maybe it was producers, James Gunn or Peter Safran. Could be anybody. So what I want to do is talk to you about how this plays out in the movie and in the book, so you can understand why I think it is such an awful choice to, at the end of the Supergirl movie, have Supergirl kill Krem. So at the end of the Supergirl movie, everything kind of going the same way it goes in the book, which is just to say, Supergirl is beating up the brigands. Lobo blew up their ship. Ruthie's fighting against some of them. There's a big fight to a song that everybody hates, which I agree it's a bad choice. But at the end of the movie, Supergirl has Krem. Now Krem, throughout this entire movie, has been a thorn in Supergirl's side. We know he is a bad guy. First of all, we saw him kill Ruthie's whole family, which is a little different from the book. I think it's an interesting choice. Again, I don't like this choice, but this is a choice. Because not only is Ruthie's dad not a rock farmer here, he is a sword maker. And in the movie, Krem wants a sword from Ruthie's dad, which he seems to be about to give him. But the only reason Krem kills Ruthie's dad is because, completely by accident, pure coincidence, he is surprised by the son who doesn't know what's going on. He kills the son, and then Ruthie's family fights him, and he kills Ruthie's family. Whereas in the book, Ruthie's dad didn't laugh at one of Krem's jokes, so Krem killed him. Left the rest of Ruthie's family because he doesn't care about him, and Ruthie is the only one that wants to go on this revenge journey. So that's the difference, but either way, Krem killed a member of Ruthie's family. And in this story, it's even worse. He killed her whole family. Although, again, I would say, I'm not excusing it. The version in the book paints a picture of a more evil guy, in my opinion. Either way, so then Ruthie tries to recruit Supergirl to help her. Supergirl refuses. Ruthie tries to convince Supergirl again at Supergirl's ship. Supergirl again refuses, but hey, now Krem is on the ship, and he shoots Krypto the Superdog with a poison arrow. Now, Krypto the Superdog is weak on this planet the same way Kara is because it's under a red sun, which is part of why she went there. She wanted to get drunk. That's true in the book as well. But so now, because of the poison on the arrow, Kara needs to find Krem because Krem has the antidote. That's true in both versions. What you find out at the end of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is that she didn't really need to do that. That's just a story she told Ruthie because she wanted to help Ruthie because Ruthie was obsessed with revenge. And she wanted to teach Ruthie that that was wrong. So Krypto's fine the whole time, whatever. It doesn't really affect the narrative that much in the book, but it is true. So then they go all over the place. In the movie, they go to like 2 planets. It takes a couple of days. In the book, it's months and months pass where it's just Supergirl and Ruthie traveling from planet to planet, finding the results of whatever terrible thing Krem did because he's the worst. Sometimes he facilitates a genocide. Sometimes he just kills a bunch of people for fun. He's a bad guy. And he doesn't have superpowers. He choose to give him superpowers in the movie, which I think is a strange choice. In the book, he's just kind of evil, but he's also kind of resourceful, clever. People tend to underestimate him because he's just some guy. So he's able to get one over on a lot of the characters in the book, including Supergirl. But then fast forward to the end, because a lot of the rest of the stuff's the same. Lobo's not there in the original book, but it doesn't matter. And also, the original book is based on True Grit. So Lobo is kind of serving the Matt Damon role. And I've even heard the pitch for this book originally had Lobo in the Supergirl role. So while I might not think he adds much to this narrative, I think him being here isn't that big of a deal. But they fight the brigands. At this point in the movie, Supergirl does still need the antidote for Krypto. Unlike the book, she does not have Krypto safe and she's not messing with Ruthie. She really does need the antidote. But a lot of this story, both stories, are about revenge, right? They're based on True Grit. True Grit is a book about revenge that was turned into a bunch of movies. But at the end of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the book, comes that similar moment. They have Krem, right? And Ruth has Krem. And she wants to kill Krem. She thinks about doing it. The horse that is working for Supergirl, Comet the Super Horse, is not worth explaining his whole deal, but he's a good guy horse. He stops Ruthie, and then Ruth is like, all right, fine. But then Comet has to go, so Ruthie is left alone with Krem. She fights Krem. She gets Krem to a point where she can kill him, and she realizes that she can't. She just physically cannot bring herself to do it for reasons she does not understand. But Supergirl shows up, and Supergirl says, don't worry, I'll kill this guy for you, because I'm really mad at him now because he got my horse killed. And the horse is very important to Supergirl, so she's mad. She gets ready to kill Krem, and Ruthie convinces her to not do that. That's this big turn in the beginning of the narrative. Supergirl's like, don't do revenge. It's bad. It won't make you happy. Killing is bad. I love that line in the book. Doesn't make it into the movie. She says this while she's still kind of drunk as she's rowing away from Ruthie. The first time they meet, she leaves if she says, goodbye, best of luck. Don't kill people. It's bad. Which is a very Superman, Supergirl kind of thing to say. And as Supergirl's getting ready to kill Krem, Ruthie tries to convince Supergirl not to kill Krem, and Supergirl gets real pessimistic with Ruthie. She's like, I was going to teach you something. That was why I did all this, but I don't even know what I'm going to teach you. It's all a lie, and I'm going to kill Krem right now. And Ruthie stops Supergirl, and she's like, no, I did learn from you. And she talks about this big journey they've gone on, and how Supergirl, by example, taught Ruthie that revenge is bad, it's unhealthy, you have to be good even after really bad stuff happens to you. And in that moment, Ruthie is able to convince Supergirl not to kill Krem. They don't kill Krem at the end of this book, even though the book is a little unclear about it at first. But that's the story coming full circle, right? Ruthie wants to kill Krem. Supergirl says, don't do that. Ruthie's like, no, I have to do it. Supergirl teaches Ruthie why that's wrong. And then later, when the tables have turned and now Supergirl really wants revenge, she goes to kill Krem and Ruthie stops her. It's a great ending. The movie does it differently. Now in the movie, similar situation, Ruthie has Krem dead to rights. Like, she can kill him, but Supergirl convinces her not to. And in this scenario, the horse isn't dead, because the horse didn't exist in this version of the story, and unlike in the book, Krypto is still actually in danger. Now, Krem has the antidote to the poison, and he's just wearing it as like a necklace, so Supergirl can get it whenever she wants. Now, he does have superpowers like super strength and durability, but at this point, he's beaten. So Supergirl convinces Ruthie not to kill Krem, because it's bad, and you have to be good. And then, in the movie, Supergirl takes the sword, and I'm pretty sure, I don't remember exactly the wording, but says something along the lines of, "This is for Krypto," and she stabs and kills Krem. So hey, what was the book about? It was about revenge, and how revenge is bad, how revenge hurts you, won't make you happy. You know, sure, in the movie, some characters do some killing. I think Ruthie, kills a guard in a situation. Supergirl definitely kills some of these guys she's fighting. That's in the middle of a fight, self-defense. Krem is on his knees. He's essentially their prisoner. Now, what we'll find out in the Supergirl book is not only did they not kill Krem, they put him in the Phantom Zone, which is this weird Kryptonian prison that exists as its own little universe. It's that mirror in Superman 2 that Zod and all his guys get stuck in. They put him there, which is what you do with a criminal, right? Even Krem, you could just put him in regular jail. Now, to be fair, so far, the Phantom Zone does not exist in James Gunn's new DCU. That is not to say they don't have a plan for dealing with superpowered people. There's a jail where all of them are kept, including Dr. Phosphorus, Cersei, I don't know, I guess the engineer. But Supergirl has options for where she can put this guy. Also, in the movies, there's no good reason why the Phantom Zone does not exist. See, in pretty much every version of the story, the Phantom Zone is created by Kryptonians. So, Clark should have it. And also, if they wanted to do this story and they wanted to put Krem somewhere, I don't know, just introduce the Phantom Zone in Superman. Or in this movie. It doesn't matter. The point is, you can make the excuse, well, Supergirl has to kill him because they don't have a Phantom Zone. Sure, but they have ways to imprison super criminals. They've done it a lot. Rick Flag has this weird planet now that would be perfect for this. So that excuse doesn't hold water. So then it gets to the fundamental difference between these two stories. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the book, is about the friendship that forms between Supergirl and Ruthie, and how they both learn to understand each other. Supergirl, leading by example, shows Ruthie that there's a better way than just living for revenge, and at a critical moment where Supergirl loses her faith, Ruthie is now able to demonstrate everything that she has learned to save Supergirl from falling into the same trap that Ruthie was going to fall into. As they say in the book a couple of times, it's too big, we're too small. Originally, Ruthie says it because the world is too big. Consequences are too big. We're just two people. What can we do? Right? Supergirl says it at the end of the narrative because she is now in Ruthie's spot. But Ruthie comforts her. What is the movie about then? The movie is about Supergirl meeting Ruthie. Supergirl is depressed because of the destruction of Krypton, the destruction of Argo City, all these terrible things that have happened to her. And then this kid wants revenge, and Supergirl says, don't get revenge. Getting revenge is bad, it won't make you happy. And then Supergirl and the little girl travel together a little bit, but they really don't seem to learn anything from each other. And maybe that's another kind of fault of the script for this movie. They have some moments together, but because they don't go on this odyssey where they're seeing so many interesting things happen and going through all these trials together, you don't get a sense that they have this real relationship. And when it comes to the end of the movie, Supergirl just says the same thing she's been saying the whole movie to Ruthie, who now, in the first chance she's had to kill Krem, realizes that that's not what she wants. So good, but then Supergirl just goes full hypocrite and kills Krem herself. The movie has nothing to say about this. Supergirl, who has been saying revenge is bad, is put in a position where she has to walk the walk, and she just doesn't do it. So the book says we can be better than revenge. The movie says we can't. Supergirl's the good guy. This is not a tragedy. This is not resolved by Ruthie being mad at Supergirl for doing this and never talking to her again. They go hang out and party right after this because they're friends. And the movie has nothing to say about it. Besides, things that happen to people are bad, and that gives them an excuse to do things that they also think are bad. And on the note of hypocrisy, I feel like we, the superhero movie audience, were made such a big deal about Superman killing Zod. And yes, the situation was different. It was contrived. It kind of happened in a dumb way. But the idea that Superman would kill Zod was so upsetting. And I think we were right to think That is not a great ending for Man of Steel. That take on Superman just does not feel right or interesting. Character is supposed to be optimistic, supposed to represent the best in us. In a movie like this, should be able to figure out a way to save everybody. Like, I know there's plenty of superhero stories where the point is like, the superhero can save everybody, but like Superman is the main guy who is able to do that. And especially in his first outing, setting the standard for what this character is going to do, you want to show him saving everybody. You don't want to show him killing the bad guy. And that's just my opinion. But at least when that movie was doing it, when Man of Steel was doing it, it was a decision. They did it because they wanted Superman to have to kill the other last Kryptonian to protect some random people from Earth. Completely disconnect from Krypton. Because that is something that it would be difficult for Superman to do. But he gets to be sad about it. It gets to affect him in that narrative. And while I think Superman just being fun at the end of Man of Steel does kind of work against that narrative, the killing Zod still feels like a deliberate choice the movie made to symbolize something, and I genuinely cannot figure out what the Supergirl movie meant to symbolize or meant to show about the world or the character of Supergirl by having her kill Krem, especially because the fun thing about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, one of the fun things about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, is it is both happening in real time but also being narrated by Ruthie. So we're reading her narration of the events, and she's a little kid, but she's also very verbose. She talks like Haley Steinfeld talks in True Grit, but like this big, flowery, epic language. And it's fun because that is frequently contrasted by Supergirl having this kind of matter-of-fact, like, ugh, all right, here we go, let's go, come on everybody, let's do the thing. Right, like that's fun to read. The comic's a little wordy, but I think it's worth it. When we get to the end, there's like a little epilogue. After they don't kill Krem, where an older Supergirl and Krypto go visit a much older Ruthie, and they take Krem out of the Phantom Zone, and Ruthie like bonks him on the head and he falls over. It's unclear if he dies, but what we do learn is over the course of his time in the Phantom Zone, Supergirl tells Ruthie this, Krem was reformed, and that's the point of the Phantom Zone. It does exist to reform the criminals that end up in there. It's not just a punishment or a place you can store them. So over the course of hundreds of years in the Phantom Zone, Krem did acknowledge the error of his ways, but before that, Supergirl mentions that she read Ruthie's book. That reminds you all this narration, this Ruthie stuff, that is the book that she wrote about this journey. And Supergirl says, I liked your book. And Ruthie says, that fictitious fiddle-faddle, I'm sorry you had to waste your time on it. Don't know why I wrote that tome in the first place. I should have told what really happened if I had any guts at all. You think I'm scared of a brigand at my age? Let them come now, and I'll show them a whipping worthy of their cursed ways. Supergirl says, you made sure he'd stay locked up. You let me take the burden of their vengeance. You made a promise, you kept it, and I appreciate it. So I say, that's interesting. What's she talking about? And on the last page of the last book, you read narration that is the version of this book that Ruthie did tell everybody, and it's this. It's too big, she said. We're too small. I knew they were my words said not long ago at the edge of Maypole, but I could not fathom their meaning coming now from her lips. For surely she must see that nothing was outside of her reach. She did not further elaborate, and I did not ask her. Instead, she moved her sword swiftly through the air and stabbed down and through the chest of the kneeling brigand. And after it was done, she returned the bloody blade to my hand. And that is where I shall end this long story of Ruthie, Supergirl, and Krem of the Yellow Hills. So, what we are adapting, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, is a story told from the perspective of Ruthie. But we learn at the very end that the story Ruthie told everyone wasn't true and she thought it was dumb. But she told it so that the brigands wouldn't go after her and so they could keep Krem in prison. And the ending of the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow book, the fake book that Ruthie wrote, the one that she apologizes to Supergirl for having Supergirl waste her time reading, ends the exact same way the movie ends. It's the same thing. Supergirl takes the sword, kills Krem. So, I mean, Warner Brothers, James, everybody. What did I watch? Is this movie the bad version of this story? The version that characters in this story think is a waste of time? Because this book is, whether you like it or not, a take on True Grit and that revenge story. And I assume when you're adapting something like that, you don't just adapt it because it's popular, you adapt it because you like it. You like what it's saying, you think it's important or interesting. And I just cannot think of a stranger way to adapt something like this. Something that's not so old. Something like Romeo and Juliet, where it's really old text, you're reinterpreting it through a modern lens. No, this is a book that came out less than 10 years ago. Everything that was true about it then is true about it now. So that's my question, and the thing I don't understand. There's people that don't like this book, that say it's overrated, they don't like the writing of it, that's fine. So I can't imagine they were thrilled that this movie even existed. Like, you would hope those aren't the people that are adapting this. So then, the people that do like this story, they would be excited that it's getting adapted. I don't know, I mean, I'm sure, to be fair, a lot of people just like this book for the visuals. Because it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. The line work, the colors, everything about the design of this book is great. But like, I'd have to imagine what a lot of people like about this book is what it says about the world, revenge, optimism, and the character of Supergirl. So having the movie throw all of that out at the very end, for what seems to be no reason besides it seems cool, feels like a huge mistake. And I have a feeling this won't come up again in these movies. Like, assuming we get more of these movies and Supergirl's gonna be in Man of Tomorrow, I don't think she's gonna be like an unhinged, depressed, revenge-hungry monster. I think her journey with Ruthie is supposed to have changed her, taught her about home and her people and family. Because now she's friends with Ruthie, she's back with Superman, she's living in Metropolis, she's trying again. She's optimistic in a way that she wasn't before the movie started, but she will kill a guy if he shoots her dog. Which, to be fair, that's a great arc for John Wick, but a strange arc for Supergirl. Because John Wick is not known for his compassion, but Supergirl is. And if anything, this kind of feels like one of those attempts to take something like the character of Supergirl and go, people aren't going to like Supergirl, we gotta make her like John Wick. And this book is a lot like John Wick, and you know what John Wick does? He kills everybody. And you say, yeah, well, that's not what the book's about. The book is the opposite. It's how she's not John Wick. But I don't know, at some point in the process, somebody decided she was, and I was better than whatever was in this. And that feels like a shame. Do I think there's some good stuff in this movie? Sure. But do I think this choice, like, fundamentally kind of breaks the movie? Yeah, I do. And do I think following the way the book had it would have completely fixed the movie? No, but I think it would have made the movie about something. And maybe that's what this movie was missing, besides, like, beautiful space visuals and dinosaurs and stuff. I don't know. And also, space doesn't always have to look beautiful. Like, I know I said, like, oh, I want space to look pretty and nice. That's not because I think space looks like that. That's because I think that's how it looks in the book, and I think that is special about the book. But other versions of space, other interpretations of space, make space look gross and fleshy and weird. I was watching a video recently called Flesh of the Cosmos by Curious Archive. It's part of their Gods and Monsters series, which happens to be the name of James Gunn's chapter of the DCEU that we're in right now. And it's about why so many interpretations of, like, outer space, this could be like aliens, like in The Thing, or like alien worlds, like Stranger Things, or even Venom, a comics guy. Why they have this strange fleshiness to them, what that represents, where that came from. I think it's really interesting. And you can watch that video along with so many other videos, all my videos early and ad-free, but so much else exclusively on this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is a subscription streaming platform that I and a bunch of other YouTubers you probably already love helped to create. First thing that's important, all of our videos go up there early and ad-free. So if you want to be the first person to see one of my Nando V movies or Nando Cut videos, Nebula is for you. And then there are series like Jetlag or Tom Scott's England, where they go up on Nebula a week before they go anywhere else. Then we also have Nebula exclusive series of videos, like Tom Nicholas has a series called Slow News Day. Captain Midnight has a series called Showrunners, where he looks at different people that have created television shows. The first episode is about Rod Serling in The Twilight Zone. The second episode is about Vince Gilligan in Breaking Bad. Looks at the journey of how they got to where they were and how that shaped the series they would showrun. And then Curious Archive's Gods and Monsters series looks at these different legendary creatures from religion and mythology and talks about how the ideas of those creatures has evolved over time and they've turned into pop culture characters. So you can find all that great stuff exclusively on Nebula. And a year of Nebula is already a steal at $60 a year. That is $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get Nebula for just $2.50 a month. That is $30 for the year. It's an awesome deal. Go check it out. I guarantee there is a creator you already love who's part of Nebula. And if you spend some time on Nebula, I bet you'll find your new favorite creator. After me, of course. Your second favorite creator, because I'm your favorite. Don't correct me. Again, that is go.nebula.tv/thenandocut. So let me know in the comments if you agree, what you thought of Supergirl, what you think of the book. Until next time, stay safe. I'll see you around.